I imagine picking up your phone and seeing a news story that Francisco Lindor, for years the biggest face of the New York Mets, is now wearing the pinstripes of the New York Yankees. It sounds impossible, doesn't it? After all, we're talking about two franchises that share the same city, have one of the fiercest rivalries in baseball history, and rarely do business involving stars of that caliber. But sometimes baseball surprises us precisely when something seems completely unrealistic. In recent days, a projection made by an ESPN journalist ignited discussions among fans by suggesting that Lindor could be the perfect piece to solve one of the Yankees' biggest problems. It's important to make it clear that there is no confirmed negotiation at this time, but the mere possibility has already been enough to turn this into one of the hottest topics among MLB fans. And when we carefully analyze the situation of both franchises, we realize that this scenario may not be as far-fetched as many people think. The Yankees remain one of the most traditional and ambitious organizations in baseball, but that doesn't mean the roster is free of flaws. On the contrary, the team is still searching for solutions at key positions and knows that every detail can make the difference in a season where the goal is to compete for the World Series. The lack of stability at shortstop, combined with the difficult moments experienced by some players and concerns about injuries, has the front office constantly evaluating opportunities that could immediately elevate the roster. And it's exactly in this context that Francisco Lindor's name begins to attract attention, not only because of his unquestionable talent but also because of the impact a player of his caliber would have in virtually every aspect of the game. Lindor has built his career as much more than an outstanding defender. Over the years, he has established himself as one of the most complete players in the league, combining elite defense, run-producing ability, speed on the bases, leadership in the clubhouse, and a presence that completely changes how opponents have to build their strategies. Players like him are extremely rare, especially at such an important position as shortstop. That's exactly why his name generates so much interest whenever any rumor about a possible change of teams emerges. Even after experiencing ups and downs at certain points in his career, Lindor is still viewed by many experts as the kind of player capable of turning a playoff contender into a legitimate championship favorite. Meanwhile, on the other side of the city, the Mets are facing a very different reality from the one they envisioned when they invested heavily to build a roster full of stars. The expectation was to compete for championships consistently, but the results have fallen well below expectations, increasing the pressure on the front office and coaching staff. When a team spends hundreds of millions of dollars and fails to achieve its goals, major changes inevitably become part of the conversation. In situations like this, massive contracts stop being just symbols of blockbuster signings and also become opportunities to restructure the club's financial outlook. That's exactly why some analysts believe that if the Mets decide to begin a rebuild, listening to offers for Francisco Lindor could become part of that strategy. For the Yankees, however, the mindset is completely different. The franchise has never been known for embracing lengthy rebuilding processes when there is a real opportunity to strengthen the roster immediately. The organization's history has always been defined by bold decisions, blockbuster acquisitions, and aggressive moves in pursuit of another championship. It's that mentality that leads many fans to believe that if a player of Lindor's caliber truly becomes available, Brian Cashman will certainly evaluate every possible option before ruling out a deal. After all, World Series contenders are often built by taking advantage of opportunities that only come around once every decade. Another factor that makes this discussion even more important is Aaron Judge's situation. The Yankees captain remains the team's biggest star and one of the most dominant players in all of Major League Baseball, but any physical issue involving a player of that caliber completely changes how a roster needs to be constructed. When Judge isn't at his best, the entire offensive burden falls on other players, making life easier for opposing pitchers. Having a superstar like Francisco Lindor alongside him would distribute that responsibility much more effectively, making the lineup significantly more dangerous from top to bottom. Beyond the offensive impact, his presence would also greatly strengthen the defense, providing more support for the pitching staff and reducing mistakes at one of the most critical positions on the field. Naturally, such a trade would also face enormous obstacles. Beyond the historic rivalry between the Yankees and Mets, Lindor has no trade protection, meaning no deal could happen without his approval. The Yankees would also need to put together a package that satisfies the Mets, especially considering the remaining value of his contract and the need to balance both competitive and financial interests. Even so, the simple fact that experts have begun discussing this scenario shows that there is logic behind the possibility. In baseball, trades once considered impossible often happen when the interests of both organizations align. And if that moment truly arrives, the Yankees will be facing a decision that could completely change the franchise's future and perhaps produce the most shocking trade New York has seen in decades. But there's another detail that makes this entire possibility even more interesting and, at the same time, extremely delicate for the Yankees. Within the organization itself, there is tremendous confidence in the development of George Lombard Jr., who is considered by many analysts to be one of the most promising prospects in the franchise's farm system. The expectation is that he will become an important piece in the coming years, and any acquisition of a shortstop like Francisco Lindor would inevitably raise questions about the role the young prospect would have once he is finally ready for Major League Baseball. Even so, when a team is firmly in its championship window, the future often takes a back seat. The Yankees built their history by making decisions based on the present, investing in players capable of making an immediate impact, even if that meant sacrificing part of the potential within their farm system. It's exactly this mentality that has made this scenario gain momentum among both analysts and fans. At the same time, the Mets situation also deserves a deeper analysis. If the organization truly concludes that its current project has reached its limit, trading one of its biggest stars could represent the first step toward a new era. It wouldn't be a decision based solely on performance but also on the need to reorganize the payroll, accumulate young talent, and build a more balanced roster for the coming years. Obviously, parting ways with a player like Lindor would be extremely difficult, especially because of everything he represents both on and off the field, but major rebuilds almost always require decisions that initially seem unthinkable. That's exactly why this story has generated so much curiosity. On one side is a franchise under tremendous pressure to win another World Series as soon as possible. On the other is an organization that may need to redefine its direction in order to return to competing at the highest level. When such different interests collide, rumors stop being mere speculation and begin fueling debates that could influence the entire league. The only question is whether this possibility will remain purely hypothetical or whether we're witnessing the beginning of negotiations capable of rewriting one of the most surprising chapters in recent New York baseball history. If there is one characteristic that has always defined the Yankees throughout their history, it is their willingness to act whenever an opportunity arises to immediately improve the team. The franchise has never built its identity by simply waiting for every piece to develop naturally. On the contrary, the organization's greatest moments were born from bold decisions, unexpected acquisitions, and calculated risks that initially seemed dangerous. That's why the mere possibility of Francisco Lindor wearing a Yankees uniform generates so much excitement. We're not just talking about adding another great player to the roster but about bringing in an athlete who influences virtually every aspect of a baseball game. His presence would strengthen the defense, improve the offense, add even more depth to the lineup, and reduce the pressure on players like Aaron Judge, who so often becomes the primary target of opposing game plans. Beyond the on-field impact, there's also a psychological factor that cannot be ignored. Imagine the reaction across the American League if the Yankees announced the acquisition of one of the best shortstops of his generation. The message would be crystal clear: the franchise remains determined to do whatever it takes to return to the top of Major League Baseball. Moves like this often change the mindset inside the clubhouse as well, boosting the players' confidence and demonstrating that the front office fully believes the team is capable of competing for a championship immediately. In tightly contested seasons, that confidence can make the difference between an early playoff exit and a deep postseason run. However, every blockbuster trade comes with a price. The Yankees would likely have to part with highly valued young talent while also taking on a significant financial commitment for years to come. The question is whether that investment would be justified by the immediate impact Lindor could provide. That's exactly the debate that is beginning to divide fans, analysts, and experts. While some see a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to strengthen the roster, others believe sacrificing part of the future could become an enormous risk. And it's precisely the difference of opinion that makes this potential trade even more fascinating throughout the baseball world. Regardless of how this story ultimately unfolds, one thing is certain: the simple fact that Francisco Lindor's name has been linked to the Yankees already demonstrates the enormous pressure surrounding the organization. Fans don't expect merely a playoff appearance. They expect championships, and that expectation follows the franchise every single season regardless of the circumstances. After years marked by frustrating postseason exits and a roster that at times fell short of expectations, any opportunity to add a superstar immediately draws serious attention. That's exactly why this rumor has gained so much momentum. It's not just about a great player becoming available on the market, but about an athlete who could fill a major need while simultaneously raising the team's competitive ceiling at a crucial moment. For the Mets, on the other hand, a trade of this magnitude would represent much more than a simple exchange of players. It would essentially acknowledge that the current project failed to deliver the expected results and that a new plan would have to begin. Giving up a player of Lindor's caliber would never be a popular decision among the fan base, but great organizations must think beyond emotion. In many cases, sacrificing a superstar today can mean building a more balanced team tomorrow. That's a reality many MLB franchises have already experienced, and some have successfully turned difficult decisions into winning projects just a few years later. Now, all eyes remain focused on the next moves in the market. As the season progresses and the trade deadline approaches, rumors tend to grow even stronger, especially when they involve players capable of changing the direction of a franchise. Will the Yankees actually try to turn this possibility into a concrete offer? Or is this nothing more than a projection designed to fuel discussions among analysts? For now, nobody can answer with certainty. But one thing is undeniable: if Francisco Lindor truly crosses the city and puts on the Yankees uniform, we will be witnessing one of the most surprising, controversial, and impactful trades in recent baseball history, with consequences that fans of both franchises may remember for many years. And now I want to hear your opinion. If this opportunity really became available, would you make this trade and bring Francisco Lindor to the Yankees, even if it meant giving up top young prospects and taking on a massive contract? Leave your answer in the comments. Until next time, Yankees Nation.